What is going on, wonderful people? And today we have got a brand new tactic, and it is going to be Hansi Flick's new Barcelona 4-2-3-1. I've seen the comments you guys are absolutely loving for this tactic, so hopefully you do enjoy. If you do, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And also, today's video has got 3 tactics included. You're going to need all 3, and we are going to go over 3 sets of results with the default tactic, a slightly more attacking tactic, and of course an underdog version. Let's get into things. For the first tactic, it would be criminal not to test with FC Barcelona, and as you can see, we put on a remarkable season, not only winning the Spanish Super Cup, the Spanish Cup, but also going over and winning the league in quite convincing fashion. And looking at this league table and our general player performance, we absolutely took over, only losing 2 games and drawing the other 1, with 35 wins being in our favour, which I will take any day. Now, as for the stats, 128 goals in terms of the fewest shots against, we're going to take that, and the most shots for. Possession, incredibly competitive, actually joint first basically with Real Sociedad, so a very, very, very big season for the Barcelona boys. And to be honest, defensively, still very, very impressive. Not the best compared to Real Madrid, but we won the league, we won 2 cups. I'm going to take it and run. What a season it was. But the data hub is going to look at 3.37 goals per game, only 0.55 conceded, over 17 shots a match, an 89% pass completion, and over 76% of tackles. We won. It's incredible. But to simply go over and make this tactic, you back home are going to want to do this. You're going to create your own style, a clean slate tactic, and load in a 4-2-3-1, and let's go and talk about it. So once again, guys, you want access to all 3 of these tactics today. You want them on console, you want them on mobile, you want rebuild files and all of the other wonderful perks you see on the screen right now, and access to next month's giveaway, because by now the current one would be done. Next month is going to be bigger and better. You can come over and join the Patreon and join the other 4,800 people, where we have got a massive live chat which you can come in on, get in on the action. If you love FM, you'll love it over there. I'll be seeing you there very shortly. But let's go over and talk through about this 4-2-3-1. So the goalkeeper is going to remain on a sweeper keeper duty. So what we're going to do is, in this scenario, is simply change this to a sweeper keeper and have him onto attack, if I can click the option. I always hate it when it differs between the 2. So when it comes to the goalkeeper, now I want this goalkeeper to come out and take more risks with the passing, and also I don't mind him dribbling a little bit more as well, because at the end of the day, it's the way they play and it's the way they go. For me personally, I prefer, in my systems, my personal systems, I prefer quite a risk-free goalkeeper, but each to their own. It works for Hansi Flick. They are flying this season, so who am I to question him? Now, when it comes to the wing-back on the right, we are going to have a wing-back on support, and he is simply going to have 1 instruction, and that is going to be simply having him on run wide with the ball, because by default, he's going to get forwards, which is perfect, because that's what I want him to be doing anyway, so there is no reason to overcomplicate things by adding in tons of instructions. And when it comes to both of the centre-backs, we are going to go with 2 ball-playing defenders who are simply both going to be on the actual default instructions, which of course is going to allow them to take more risks with the passing and hold their position nice and solid. Now, when it comes to the left-back, we are going to go with a wing-back, which is going to be set to attack. And once again, we are going to add 1 more instruction, giving this player a total of 3, running wide, crossing from the byline, and of course also getting further forwards. Now, when it comes to this 4-2-3-1, we are going to be playing the deeper version of a 4-2-3-1, which is what you're going to be seeing on your screen right now. And we are going to change this role to a halfback, who is simply going to be set to defend, and he has got some instructions that is going to be consisting of taking fewer risks and also tackling harder, which of course will give him a total of 4 instructions: holding the position, as you'd expect, dribbling less, as you'd expect, and a couple of instructions we added on to sort of make him a bit more of a risk-free option, who also loves to put in a bit of a challenge. Now, next to him, funny enough, is actually going to be a DLP, and he has got 1 instruction customly added, giving him a total of 4 on the cards, and this is a perfect pairing that replicates his Hansi Flick system very, very well. And honestly, do you know what? I think Hansi Flick might get the job done in Spain this year. In terms of the league, I think he might actually do it. Real Madrid seem to have all the gear and no idea. They've got the best team probably in the league. The attackers, the midfield, the young players, everything in their favour. And you know what? Some of the results at the start of the season has been absolutely awful. But let's go over and carry on this tactic anyway. So on the right-hand side, we are going to go over and apply an inverted winger on the attack. And we are going to have some instructions. Let's go over and add that right now. They are going to consist of stay wide and also tackle harder. Now, the great thing about this is, you might be thinking, Josh, why do you want him out wide when the wing-back's going to be overlapping? Well, Good question, but they're only going to stay wide out of possession. When they've got the ball, they are going to cut inside with the ball, which is why it's completely fine to do it. Of course, naturally, he's also going to be dribbling with the ball a lot, and of course, getting further forwards because he is on attack. Now, on the left-hand side, we are going to go with another inverted winger. On this occasion, though, he is going to be set to support, and we are going to have one more instruction, and that is going to be getting further forwards, staying wider, and also tackling harder. So he is going to play very similar to the right-hand side, but maybe a little bit less attacking, because don't forget, this wing-back on this side is going to be quite pushed up. Now, when it comes to the centralised area, we are going to go with an AM, but he is not going to be on support. He's going to be set to attack, and he's simply going to be on roam and move into them wonderful channels. And this sort of free blocking midfield here, pushed up as wingers, are actually really, really good. They intertwine with each other. They work really, really well. I'm not against you back home if you want to do this. I don't have it on this tactic because I don't really think it's a handsy flick sort of way, but you could have them cutting in and having shots as well as a little bit of advice. But again, if you're all about realism, then obviously you wouldn't have it on. And lastly, we are going to go with a deep lying forward who is simply going to be set to attack on the default. And I will say, Lewandowski, he absolutely loved this. But of course, we are going to go over now and talk about some of the team instructions. Let's go over and get that done. As a little reminder, again, this is all based off a clean slate on the attacking mentality. When it comes to the whip, very important we actually provide some whip when it comes to this as well. So we are going to set them to fairly wide. We're going to focus to play through the middle while playing out from the back. In terms of this, we're going to work the ball into the box with mixed crosses being selected. And this is where it gets quite simple, actually, because we are going to max out the tempo because he does play quite an aggressive style. And as for the passing, we are going to keep it on shorter. I think the only thing up for debate in terms of realism, because I know a lot of you boys and girls back home only maybe watch Barcelona, and you might want to correct me on one or two things. For me, the only thing I would consider changing is maybe having the tempo down by 1. But for me, he plays quite a high tempo, so I'm going to have mine maxed out. In transition, we are going to go with counter press and also counter and play to the centre backs with no favoured distribution type. The reason I've not selected the fullbacks is because mainly the left-hand side might be a little bit too pushed up, and we've got 2 ball-playing defenders. We may as well use them to the best of their ability. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to deploy the high and press line of engagement, and of course, the much higher defensive line. We're going to get stuck in and prevent short goalkeeper distribution as well with a maxed out trigger press. Now, what I will say is, regarding this tactic is the result you saw with Barcelona. We have gone and made an even more attacking one, which cooked with another team. So do stick around because it's very important you have all 3 tactics. Let's get into the attacking version. With that attacking version, we are going to go over with Bayern Munich, and we enjoyed a fantastic season. Not only winning the Bundesliga with only losing 1 game, we also do win the Champions League 2-0 in extra time. But to explain why this tactic done so well, and you can also see the extra goal it scored a game, as you can see now at 4.53, this tactic, as you're going to see very shortly, is a little bit more direct in its attacking approach. You are going to sacrifice around about 2% of the pass completion and possession around about the same, but you get more shots off at goal and you will score more goals. But of course, if you are favouring a more possession, tiki-taka based focus, then I probably would say the default tactic, but have all 3 tactics because you can switch to this mid-game to go and get your goal if you so need it. And this tactic is definitely going to get you goals. This is going to be the subtle change of this tactic then. So it is still going to be a 4-2-3-1. The goalkeeper remains exactly the same. Instantly changes at the back. Both of the ball-playing defenders are both on dribble more and tackle harder. The wing-back on the left is on attack on take more risks, cross from more often, and also run wide with the ball. And on the right, we're going to have a wing-back on support on take more risks, cross more, and also run wide with the ball. The midfield does change a little bit. You might be thinking, Josh, a DM in an attacking variant? That's completely fine because he is going to be a DM, but he is going to be getting further forwards and looking to actually contribute in the attacking side of the game. The DLP does remain exactly the same because he suits it perfectly. He can sit deep and look for any of these forward runners. The inverted winger on the right and also on the left are exactly the same now, both on attack, on stay wide, and tackle harder. The AM remains exactly the same, as does the deep lying forward. So the real change here is going to be the confident centre backs, of course the additional winger being on attack, and that DM, honestly, he makes all the difference. But again, the clean slate on attacking, and to be honest with you, it does remain fairly somewhat similar. We're still going to play out from the back, we are still going to go through the middle, but we are officially going to overlap left and overlap right. This remains exactly the same, but of course, it being an attacking tactic, tactic, we are going to add on Be More Expressive, because I want these players to not fear to attack. If they make a mistake, they make a mistake. Usually, when you're playing an attacking variant, you're using it with two options, and the only real two situations you should be using this tactic is with a big team, or if you're trying to chase a goal. And either one, you could afford to make the occasional rare error. So it is a lot more direct, and yes, you are going to sacrifice a little bit of possession because of the overlap and runs, and maybe they'll cross the ball in more often than favour a short passing approach, but you are going to get the goals you so desperately need. In transition, we're going to counter press, and we're going to counter, and we're simply going to keep it like this. Nice and simple. To be honest, I didn't really feel the need to distribute quickly. We were getting the goals anyway, so I'm going to keep it nice and tame. And lastly, out of possession, we're going to maintain the previous what we saw, because you can't really go any more attacking than that. We're going to get stuck in and simply max out the trigger press. And that's going to be your attacking tactic. But now to a tactic that won Bournemouth the Premier League. You might think I'm lying. I'm not lying. I will say this was tested with all of Bournemouth's new signings, to clarify that, and we do come out and put on a stellar season, and it wasn't pretty in the Premier League. We drew 6 games and we lost 3. The losses weren't brutal losses, and the draws as well. We didn't concede 5 or 6 goals. We were just incredibly solid, to be honest with you. We didn't score a ton of goals. We didn't let a ton of goals in. A lot of the games were close, but with Bournemouth, we've got to be realistic. We also win the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, and what I will say is, going over to the data hub, not the dynamics, is going to be a little bit like this. The goals per game, I don't hide this from you. It's a low amount of goals per game, 2.18 compared to what you're used to seeing with a Barcelona or a Bayern, but we are Bournemouth and we are playing a much more reserved system. But if you are playing back home as a team that's an underdog, you ain't going to find much better than this. And also, it is perfect to seal out a game with, because it's not that attacking minded, but it's incredibly control minded, very hard to break down, and simply ticks every box you'd ever want to tick for an underdog tactic or a tactic to defend a game out with. It's absolutely incredible. Let's go and make it. It's going to be exactly the same shape. When I make these tactics, I really don't like to go too far away from the original shape, because it doesn't feel like I'm doing the same video then, you know? So the goalkeeper does actually remain the same. The ball playing defenders are definitely not going to be dribbling more. They're going to be simply both on the default. The wing back on the right and on the left also defaulted, so a very defensive minded back line with 2 defensive minded players in front of them. So we really are going to shape up when it comes to defending, and that halfback is going to drop back and sometimes appear that we have 5 back. So I mean, it's a very, very tough system to break down. He is still going to be on take fewer risks and tackle harder. The DLP on defend, simply on tackle harder. The inverted winger on the right and on the left are exactly the same. Pass it short, roam, stay wider, and also tackle harder, who link up brilliantly into the AM, who is also now on support, on pass it short, cross less, shoot less, roam, and move into the channels. These 3 here are going to change the ball between each other so much. It's pure control, dominance, nothing anyone can do. You're going to have so much more possession playing this way. You're not going to score as many, as I keep saying, but for control, don't look any further than this. And the deep lying forward simply drops to support. So we are going to clean slate this again and go all the way down to balanced when it comes to the mentality. We're also going to go down to fairly narrow. And you might be thinking, Josh, why? It's to compress the team, bring them a little bit more narrow together, makes the passes easier, better for control. In my past experience, I've learned that it works really, really well. We're going to work the ball into the box, so we are sensible with the few chances we are going to be given. We're going to play out from the back, still focus through the middle, but this is where it changes, probably for the better for those of you that like a low tempo game. We are going to go all the way down to much shorter, which defaults our tempo to slightly lower. So it is, again, a very different way of playing football, much more possession orientated. Again, if you are taking this into a situation where you're trying to waste time, you can add time wasting on as well, but I don't have that selected because I know a lot of you boys and girls download these tactics and simply plug and play them into every game, and of course you don't really want to be time wasting from the get-go. In transition, we're going to counter press and also hold the shape, so again, a real big change, and purely for make it a lot less risky, we're going to play to anyone across the back line while taking short goal kicks as well. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to still deploy the high pressing line, but we are going to go only with the higher line, standard trigger press, and still get stuck in. And that's going to give you boys and girls back home 3 incredible Hansi Flick tactics. A manager who, to be honest, is doing such a good job at Barcelona at the moment. I was very iffy with his appointment, but do you know what? He is performing incredibly well. The players look like they've really brought in to that system, and it's a lot of fun to play in the game. So hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Once again, if you want to get access to all of these perks, you can come on over and join that Patreon and be part of close to 5,000 people. But more importantly than that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.